Fiat is widely recognized as one of the most influential car manufacturers in Brazil. However, its reputation in the United States is quite different, where it's often the subject of jokes. The Italian automaker, despite leading the Brazilian market, faces many challenges in various countries. So, the question arises, how can a brand of such relevance in Brazil be the butt of jokes abroad? The acronym Fiat translates to Italian Automobile Factory of Turin. However, in the United States, this acronym has taken on a significantly different meaning. Fiat has been caricatured as a manufacturer specializing in producing low-quality cars. For Americans, the name Fiat has become synonymous with poorly made vehicles. Interestingly, when Fiat entered the North American market over 100 years ago, it aimed to position itself as a producer of luxury cars. Despite a seemingly promising start, world wars interrupted the Italian automaker's production in the US. Production only resumed in the 1950s, in a completely transformed environment where the American automotive industry was already highly developed. In this scenario, Fiat introduced models tailored for the American market, like the Fiat 500 and the 1300. However, the brand's cars, small and compact, faced negative reputation from the outset. They required constant maintenance and were notorious for rusting easily. Not surprisingly, in the 1980s, Fiat withdrew from the American market once again. The acronym Fiat took on a new popular and derogatory meaning, "Fix it again, Tony," suggesting that their cars were prone to failures. Nevertheless, Fiat, undeterred, decided to try again and returned to the United States after the 2008 crisis. Its expertise in compact and economical cars seemed ideal for an audience in financial crisis. But once more, Fiat failed to establish itself. Although Fiat's compact cars are fuel efficient, the American consumer, even in times of recession, tends to opt for used trucks or SUVs instead of a compact car. This preference, seemingly more aligned with the tastes of European drivers, shows how cultural differences can impact even the automotive market. The history of Fiat may have had a turbulent start in North America, but the contemporary reality is quite different. The Italian automaker established itself in Brazil in the 1970s, initiating its local production with the Fiat 147 in Betim, Minas Gerais. At that time, the Brazilian automotive industry was expanding, providing access to larger parts inventories and the latest technologies. However, Brazilian mechanics were not familiar with the mechanics of a Fiat vehicle. Moreover, practices like technical assistance and recalls were unfamiliar in the country. As a result, the acronym Fiat took on an alternative meaning in Brazil: "I was deceived, now it's too late." This epithet suggested that the brand's cars didn't meet expectations and often caused headaches for their owners. After all, the harder it is to repair a car or replace its parts, the stronger the feeling that it's of low quality. However, over time, this negative image of Fiat cars began to fade. The Italian automaker gained a reputation for offering an appealing variety of entry-level and mid-range cars, a price range particularly attractive to the Brazilian consumer. It's no coincidence that classic models like the Fiat Uno Mille and the Palio have been known throughout the country for decades. Brazilians have a distinct fondness for compact cars, which were affordable and practical. However, it's worth noting that the SUV, pickup, and truck segment has been experiencing continuous growth in Brazil. Fiat Brazil has stood out not only due to its past but also its current performance. In 2022, the company achieved impressive sales, surpassing old and strong rivals like Chevrolet, Hyundai, and Toyota. The automaker sold nearly 430,000 vehicles, accounting for about 22% of the total car sales in the country that year, a remarkable feat considering the Brazilian automotive market was going through challenging times with slightly reduced demand. Fiat's financial figures were even more impressive. Along with leading in sales, the company also led in revenue, garnering 45.3 billion Brazilian reais. If we divide this revenue by the number of cars sold, Fiat obtained a little over 105,000 reais per each vehicle sold. And 2022 was not an atypical year. The company had already started thriving in 2021. Fiat has shown remarkable resilience in recent years despite considerable challenges. With interrupted production chains, inflation, high interest rates, and billions of people in isolation, Fiat managed to expand its operations. The global health pandemic significantly impacted production and supply chains, particularly affecting the semiconductor sector, essential for the functioning of many devices we use daily, including cars. The semiconductor shortage, due to the disruption or reduction in production for long months in 2020, harmed the automotive market. However, many automakers reduced their orders to suppliers early in the crisis, believing that the world would take much longer to return to normal. But despite this, Fiat stood out and grew. Fiat confronted the crisis head-on. Its confident leaders foresaw a rapid market recovery. They viewed the adverse scenario as an opportunity, deciding to keep production active even with lower profit margins. For this, they sought creative solutions, acquiring aviation components, exploring suppliers from emerging markets, and paying more for some inputs. The goal was to keep the assembly line running. The Argo and Mobi models were pivotal during this period. It's estimated that these vehicles have half the electronic components required for the Chevrolet Onix. Hence, Fiat had an advantage in navigating the semiconductor shortage issue compared to Chevrolet, which had to halt Onix production in 2021. During this time, Fiat executed a successful strategy, as by 2021, it wasn't even the second contender for leadership potential. In 2020, the best-selling car in Brazil was the Chevrolet Onix, followed by the Hyundai HB20 and the Chevrolet Onix Plus. Fiat didn't appear on the podium. However, the company was determined to change this reality, driven by a refreshed marketing approach and the launch of new models. Fiat wanted to overcome the image of being focused on basic and low-cost vehicles, initiating a renewal that included changing its iconic logo to a more minimalist look and adopting the slogan, "A Paixão move, passion moves." Simultaneously, Fiat joined the Peugeot-Citroën group in a deal valued at over $52 billion. This merger aimed to achieve savings through brand cooperation, platform and technology sharing, with a focus on electrification and autonomous driving. The emphasis on marketing and launching new models was evident with the introduction of Fiat's first SUV in Brazil. While compact cars are still important for the brand, the focus has expanded beyond them, as evidenced by the successes of the Argo and the Mobi. The Fiat Pulse, announced in early 2021, reached the public in a unique way, without a name, but with a strong marketing campaign. The differentiating factor was that the audience itself would choose the name of the new vehicle. During the airing of Big Brother Brazil, a high-rated program, Fiat, the official sponsor, organized an open vote. Participants could choose between the names Pulse, Domo, and Tour. In the end, Fiat Pulse emerged as the winner. Launched in October 2021, the Pulse became an immediate hit. Within a year, it had sold 50,000 units, significantly contributing to Fiat's rise. However, the Pulse wasn't solely responsible for the brand's success. The Fiat Strada pickup, launched in 1998 and revamped in 2020, became the best-selling car in Brazil in 2021, with 109,000 units sold. In addition to the Strada, another Fiat model also gained prominence, the Argo. It secured the third position among the best-selling vehicles in 2021. According to Fenebrave, 2 out of every 10 light vehicles sold were from Fiat, representing a fifth of the country's total registrations. Fiat also shifted its approach toward its entry-level vehicles. The Mobi, once seen as the most affordable car in Brazil, started being equipped with more standard features and technology. This strategy proved successful, as the Mobi jumped from the 15th position among the best-selling cars in 2020 to the 5th position in 2022. This new approach also extended to other vehicle segments within the brand. Fiat grew considerably in the Brazilian market. In 2019, the brand held 13.8% of the light vehicle market. In a little over 2 years, this share jumped to 21.4%. To put this into perspective, this growth is equivalent to the market share of all Toyota brands at the time. In 2021 and 2022, Fiat sold over 220,000 units of the Fiat Strada. 4 of its vehicles were among the top 10 sellers in Brazil. These numbers are impressive, especially considering the strong competition from brands like Chevrolet, Hyundai, Volkswagen, Toyota, and Renault. Fiat's leadership continued into 2023. The Italian automaker has already sold over 40,000 new cars this year. Fiat is part of the Stellantis group, which includes brands like Jeep, Peugeot, and Citroën. Despite this, it's Fiat that leads the group's global sales, largely due to its performance in Brazil. Fiat was responsible for 21% of the 5.8 million vehicles sold by the Stellantis group in 2022, despite its limited relevance in markets like the United States, Japan, and China. Even in Europe, Fiat faces challenges, except in Italy. The German market, for example, dominated by Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi, sees few Fiat vehicles. However, in Brazil, the story is different. The country accounted for 36% of Fiat's global sales in 2022, with 430,000 cars sold. To illustrate the difference between the Brazilian and American markets, Fiat sold 50,000 units of the Mobi in Brazil between January and September 2022, compared to only 801 in the United States. Thus, while Fiat holds little significance in the United States, it dominates the Brazilian market, and there are no signs that this will change anytime soon.